Hey, Chris. Oh, forgot to say, man of the people. Why? Because I love working for fans of the Carolina Panthers. As you guys know, it's an interactive show all the time. So the big reason I'm doing these shows live is to interact with you guys. So there's a link in the description. I'm going to shortly put one in the comments for you to click on it. Come on the show live. Talk to me, all right? Let me know what you think about these questions. I hope everybody's having fun this week. Again, just trying to, get ready for Spartanburg. And I know a lot of people are anxious for the season start, just like to talk some football. So that's what we're doing this week. And subscribe if you haven't done so. Really helps me to continue to have players and coaches on the show. Training camp, the mission every year, get all the draft picks. We'll do the same this year, excluding Bryce Young. I probably will not be able to get him, but all the other draft picks, look forward to seeing some interviews from your boy on that. So, hey, if you watch the video, don't hit a like button. Shame on you. Help me out. All right, help me grow. Help me to do what I love to do, working for you guys. So, happy Hump Day to everybody out there. And let me go ahead and get this information into the comments to allow people to join. So, give me just a moment to get that going. How's everybody doing out there today? Anybody having a good week? Let me know. It's always good to hear good stories about people having a good time. And I'm gonna also say this. Friday show, I'm gonna let you all choose a title. All right. I've been picking these titles all week. I've been having fun, but this show, this channel is interactive. All right. What topics would you like to see? Would you like to talk about what Cam Newton and his Hall of Fame possibilities? Would you like to talk about Bryce Young and will he have a better rookie season than Cam Newton? I don't know. Whatever you think about, let me know, and we'll consider it for Friday's topic. All right, so I just about got the thing pinned. Yep, so if you're on YouTube, it is now pinned in the comments on how you can join us. And if you're on other platforms, look in the description. There'll be a link there to join us as well. So let's go ahead and start with today's topic, which is who is the greatest coach in the Carolina Panthers history? And as always, I want to give you all a chance to, if you can't come live because you're at work or driving or something like that, then go ahead and type it in the comments. Of course, unless you're driving, then wait till you can stop and let me know your choice. Oh, and we're also exactly 1 week from the first day of practice in Spartanburg. Exactly 1 week. This time next week, I will have gotten a little bit darker, sweated a little bit, got you some clips of Bryce Young, and probably right now still be sitting possibly in a gym waiting for players to come out and allow us to get our first questions of the season into them with getting into practice. And they're not going to be in pass right away. It's going to take a couple of days. I think it's almost the first of next, well, I'm saying it like we're in this week. It's either the very tail end of that first week or the beginning of the week that they would start to get in pads. They do not go in pads right away. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this question. Who's the best coach of all time for the Carolina Panthers? Immediately, some of you are probably thinking about, man, I know who the worst coach is. And we might touch on that before I get out of here. But we're going to talk about the best coach. And I think when you talk about the best coach in Panthers history, you're going to come with two guys that come to mind for me. First guy will be, and in no particular order, John Fox. And then the second guy would be Ron Rivera, our most recent coach. So John Fox, Ron Rivera, right? Those are two guys that came on to my mind as the top two coaches. Both of them being like the longest tenured coaches for the Carolina Panthers. I think about 8, 9, or 9 and 10 respectively. Don't quote me on that exactly, but about that for each one of them, with Ron Rivera having the longer career. Both of these coaches went to the Super Bowl. John Fox was the first to do it. Ron Rivera was the second to do it. both of them had some good players. So, I go and take all of that into account to say, not just off the stats, but who do I think is the best head coach? And let's talk about some of the players that John Fox had. We'll start with John Fox. Well, before I say that, let's talk about the records for these two. John Fox was 73 and 71, so he had just a slight hair better than a 500 record. Ron Rivera was 76, 63, and 1. So a little bit more than 50%, or 500, whichever way you want to look at. Baseball talk is 500. But a little bit better than 500 for Ron Rivera. I already said both made it to the Super Bowl. I know Ron Rivera won 3 NFC South championships. I forget how many John Fox had. I feel like John might have had 3. Let me see if I can figure this out real quick. Hopefully I can quickly figure this out. 3 times that Fox won NFC South. In that category of NFC South titles, to me, Ron Rivera had the more impressive string, because I strongly believe he won 3 in a row. Absolutely know he won 2 in a row, but I strongly believe that with Ron Rivera at the helm, they won 3 in a row, with that losing season being one of those in which they won the NFC South and made it to the playoffs. So you kind of give the edge there to Ron Rivera. What about players? Star players that they had. And I see my man Far City has chimed in with his comment. Please continue to chime in with your comment, or you're welcome to click on the link that's in the description or pin to the comments and join me here. Let's talk about players. Both had some good players. John Fox had Steve Smith. Now, both of these guys actually had Steve Smith, but Steve definitely played more games with John Fox than he did with Ron Rivera. All right. So Steve Smith was part of John Fox's personnel when he was coaching. You had Julius Peppers. Let's also say that Steve Smith was a Hall of Honor guy. Julius Peppers, pretty much more than 3/4 of his career with John Fox. And I'm not talking about his whole career, but I'm talking about between the two coaches, because both of these coaches, Rivera and Fox, had a little bit of overlap with some of the players. But Julius Peppers, by far, most of his career with John Fox. You had Jake Delhomme, another Hall of Honor guy. So that's 3 Hall of Honor guys that Fox had during his time. Jake Delhomme as well. Jordan Gross had I think he was pretty much split. No, he was not split. I feel like he might have been all Fox. But Jordan Gross, another Hall of Honor guy with John Fox. You also had Thomas Davis, D'Angelo Williams, John Beeson, and Ryan Khalil that came under, that was coached by John Fox. Let's go to Ron Rivera, Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Greg Olson, Jonathan Stewart, Josh Norman, Ryan Khalil. So Ron Rivera coached a little bit longer, had a little bit better record, and in my opinion, he had less star power. He had some really good superstars. His superstar was Cam Newton on the offensive side. His superstar on the defensive side was Luke Kuechly. But then after Cam on the offensive side, who did he have? He always had a guy maybe who was having his a good season once he got with Cam for a year, and then he fell back off, or it was a lot of just trying to get plug and play kind of guys to help fill something in, because Cam was using his athleticism so much. I mean, he had Steve Smith for a couple years, and then after that, it was a lot of guys, a lot of guys. Luke Kuechly on the defensive side also had Thomas Davis with him. Those two paired up to be extremely well. For Ron Rivera, John Fox was in there. Ryan Khalil was a little bit on that part as well. So I feel like John Fox had more than Ron Rivera had, and I feel like Ron Rivera achieved some more success again. I go to those three NFC South titles back to back to back, the Super Bowl appearance, and yeah, he got a lot out of his players, and I think now I wasn't around in the locker. I've been credential covering the team for quite a while. I think about 15 years or so. And I will say this: I was not in the locker room as much when we were when John Fox was the coach. I was in the locker room a lot more when Ron Rivera was the coach, and I do feel like Ron Rivera just had his players. You know, he was like a players' coach. Players loved him. I mean, he could get a lot out of his guys, get his guys extremely worked up, and light a fire under them. You know, especially when that riverboat Ron came about. And yeah, so my nod is to Ron Rivera. Okay, so that's enough of my babbling, enough stats about it. Let me know what you think. Gonna right now turn it over to my co-host Andre Cassidy and play his thoughts on who is the greatest coach in Carolina Panther history. Give me just a second. Should already have these headphones ready so that you guys will not hear the feedback. Here we go. Hopefully I get this right on the first try here. Let's see. If I don't, I'm sorry, Andre.
All right. So today's question: who is the greatest coach in Carolina Panthers
The
history?
greatest coach in Carolina Panther history. Give me just a second. Should already have these. All right. Sorry, I had some feedback. Had too many windows open. Here we go. Co-host Andre Cassidy on best coach.
Rivera or John Fox? Well, I can tell you right away, I know who isn't the greatest coach in Panthers history, but we'll leave that kind discussion for another day. But back to the question at hand. I think for me, it would have to be Ron Rivera. I think that's a pretty clear answer for me, personally speaking. Um, the success that he had over the course of 9 seasons with the team, I think it kind of just speaks for itself. Back to back to back division titles in 2013, 2014, and 2015. I believe it was 4 playoff appearances: 2013, 14, 15, and 17. Um, and to be able to do all that with a young Cam Newton and to be able to develop him to a level that even back in 2011 we didn't think was going to be possible. Um, it's just a testament to not only him but to the coaching staff at the time. But for me, his teams that he led have a special place in my heart, and I know for a lot of you out there, uh, they have a special place in your heart as well. Coming in at 2011, and for me, those were the teams that I grew up on through middle school and high school, were the Ron Rivera led Panther football teams. There were some hiccups along the way early on in his tenure, but once he started to get the hang of the whole thing in 2013, I mean, it was just he ran the show, and he was able to do a lot with the talent that he had, and he just brought a level of consistency to a team that really up to that point before him didn't really have. And obviously they didn't get a chance to win a Super Bowl. They got to go to the one. But just the memories associated with that 2015 team and even the other teams in years prior. And even up to his last year in 2019. I mean, he left a mark, a forever stamp on this Panthers organization. And I think, um, without a doubt, 100%, he is the best head coach that we have ever had. And when he left and when he got fired in 2019, since then, there was just a presence that wasn't there at that position. And again, that's just a testament to how good he was as a coach, how good he was as a man and as a person in this community. So Ron Rivera.
Whoops, cut him off just a little bit. Cut him off just a little bit. My bad, Andre. Uh, so so far we're both in agreement. Ron Rivera is the greatest coach. Let me see here. We did have a comment that I want to put here on the screen. Ron Rivera probably love both these guys though. Love both those guys though. Both of them deserve to be in the Hall of Honor. So really quick, and then also we got four more just checking in with us. Hello, Chris and Andre. Andre's not live; that was recorded, but I'm sure he will say hello as well. So, anybody want to? Hey, who do you guys think is the worst coach? We won't talk about it. We'll leave that for a comment chatter. Comment chatter on the worst coach in Panthers history. And there's actually, of course, Matt Rule's going to come to mind, but he's not the only one that had a little bad and shorter than expected time at the helm for the Carolina Panthers. All right, so we're going to go ahead and throw in our fun question of the day. We've been doing this all week as well. Would you rather? Well, know what you all think. Would you rather? Would you rather be known as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but never, ever win a Super Bowl? One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but you never won a Super Bowl? Or would you prefer to have a career as an NFL backup, but win multiple Super Bowls? Great quarterback, one of the greatest of all times, no Super Bowls. Backup quarterback that wins multiple Super Bowls. Which would you, and we're not going to make this complicated about money and all this, just, a fun would you rather. What do you think? Let me go ahead and play what Andre would do.
All right. So this is why I like doing these what ifs because they're just so thought provoking and you can really see both sides of the argument with a lot of these. But for today, this is a question that I will try to answer. Would you rather be the greatest quarterback of all time, but never win a Super Bowl, or have a career as a backup quarterback, but win multiple Super Bowl rings? We are in the era of ring culture. And so a lot of people overinflate the value of a championship on somebody's resume. I always ask, like with an individual player, when you're looking specifically at them, what kind of impact did they have on the team that led that team to win a championship? And if it's minimal to none, then it's hard for me to really make a case for them. I mean, you have the rare situations where, like Nick Foles, who was a backup quarterback, won the Super Bowl for Philadelphia back in 2017. And you'll have rare instances of that. But for me personally, I look at it and I say, hey, my preference is I would rather be the greatest quarterback of all time, but never win a Super Bowl. Because again, it all comes down to outside circumstances. Sometimes there's just things that are out of your control that you can't really make much of an impact on, like injuries. I specifically talk about injuries because, again, with that Eagles Super Bowl ring, Carson Wentz was hurt. Nick Foles stepped in and took him to the promised land. So circumstances are different. You always have to take that into account. But again, it comes down to injuries. It comes down to the competition. Like, why do you think a lot of these players from the 90s in the NBA. Why do you think they don't have rings? It's just because the competition was stiff. Michael Jordan was that guy, and he ended a lot of potential championship runs for a lot of the NBA back in that era. And even today, like with Tom Brady, he was the reason why a lot of these quarterbacks didn't win. He was a guy in the way. And ultimately, in a team sport, you can only do so much as the individual in order to propel your team forward. So again, it comes down to competition, fate, injuries, and what you got to work with. And sometimes in that instance, you know, you can only do so much as an individual. So I would rather be regarded as the greatest, even though I may not have a Super Bowl ring attached to it, because again, a lot of the things that you can't control, um, it's kind of just outside of your hand at that point.
So so for Andre, I'm throwing a little curveball here because for him, I said the greatest of all time. And right now I'm saying one of the greatest. So it's a little bit of a curve. But here's how I feel about it. You know, I'm a family guy. I currently have 3 kids, about to have 4 kids, right? I love playing sports. I love what I do. I love covering the Panthers. I love my career, but I also love spending time with my family, right? So for that reason, I feel like a lot of times in sports, when you are going to be one of the greatest, especially at the quarterback position, you are spending a tremendous, tremendous amount of time, more than anybody else, at your craft, working on it, working on it, working on it. And that's tough if you have a family, if you want to spend time with your wife and your kids. You can't, right? Especially in this day and age, because it's like people are getting more and more like earlier in their lives. You know, back when I was younger, it was nothing to play 3 sports in high school. You know, it was all right. It was fine. Now it seems like it would be the biggest of sin. Like if you're good at football, the football coach will not let you play other sports, and everybody's sports you're in. Anyway, that all goes to say before I go off on some tangent here, which I don't want to do. Let me take a drink of water. I would like to be a backup quarterback. I mean, if I'm a backup quarterback, it doesn't mean that I suck. It doesn't mean that I didn't get any games during my career. It doesn't even mean that I didn't even get any snaps during the Super Bowl. Probably not, because the Super Bowl is such a big game that, you know, unless we had a big lead, I'm probably not going to get in it. But you still get a great experience from being on the team. You're at the quarterback position, so you're paid pretty decently. And to be able to go to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl, have the ring, have some family life balance, I like it. I like it. Because if you didn't win a Super Bowl, right, and you're one of the greatest, you're always going to have that extra conversation out there about, yeah, Chris was like the greatest quarterback that never won a Super Bowl. Like, I don't want to hear that all the time. I'd rather just be Chris was a quarterback that nobody talks about, but I was on this team and I had these, like, I don't have to hear all that, and had all that fun that comes along with having a Super Bowl. So anyway, just fun, just fun, just fun. That's how I would feel. Let me know how you all feel. I think we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up the show unless anybody jumps on before I get off, which I'll gladly have you on the show. I'd like to hear what you had to say about either of the topics today, the greatest coach of all time for the Carolina Panthers or our fun would you rather question about quarterbacks not winning the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Again, training camp this time next week. I will be down in Spartanburg bringing you coverage of the Carolina Panthers, having video of practice. So if you like that kind of thing, go ahead and please now hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you can know when I go live. In case you might have some questions, you might see something happen during practice. Hey, so-and-so intercepted someone. What did it look like? And when I'm live, you can ask me, and I'll tell you my view firsthand on what I saw and whose fault it was, etc. For anything. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna just double check, make sure I haven't missed any questions that have come through. Again, it's Hump Day. Hopefully everybody's having a good one. All right, so I got one comment here on Twitter that says John Fox was the best coach of all time. Let's see if I could check one other place and make sure that I covered all of the questions that were out there. Yeah, I got it all. So, as always, appreciate everybody for tuning in. For my man Andre Cassidy, I'm Chris Jenkins for Charlotte Vibe. Thanks for watching.